Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and wow, 2.1 is finally here, the anniversary patch as well. In this video, we're going to be predicting what's coming up for 2.2, and at the same time, what I want to always start off with is let's look at a review of what our predictions was for 2.1 and how accurate were we, because it makes no sense if it's I'm totally just uttering and super inaccurate. You wouldn't want to listen to this. But actually, based on history, because we actually have data that goes all the way back to 1.0, 1.1, our hit rate is actually quite high. Especially recently, it has been much more accurate for the 5 stars. The 4 stars are a bit iffy, but let me tell you some of the things that we always seem to find out. There's a lot of new things that's going on in 2.2 as well. No new 4 stars being dripped, which means our predictions is affected by it. And also something insane, we have never had a character not come back for 11 different banners, which is actually Yukong. I predicted her to come back in 2.1, but she didn't. Let's take a look at our 2.1 stats first. For the 5 stars, we predicted that Topaz is coming in the first half and Jingliu in the second half. Now, a lot of people, I remember throughout the time, were saying Topaz is coming out, and suddenly they did a 180 and said Jingliu is coming out. The reason why I thought that Jingliu had a high chance of coming out, and in my opinion was the one that mattered more for a lot of people because she's a little bit more anticipated than Topaz, is that they want to force players who join late to have to choose between each of these 2 DPS. If you slot Jingliu in 2.2, likely you have time for some of people to save, they won't spend as much money. Putting them back to back does make a lot of sense, and a lot of the other characters are generally more defensive or supportive, which Aventurine is, you don't want to competing with Aventurine and stuff like that. So Jingliu does make a lot of sense. I'm surprised with Luota here, because Luota and Aventurine kind of cannibalize each other's sales. But maybe if you're a Husbando collector, you will probably have Luota already. So that's why to them it's yeah, you're going to go for both anyway. I'm quite surprised at this Luota. I thought he was going to come out in 2.2. If you look at it, it does make sense, right? 1 Harmony here, 1 Hunt here. It does make sense to have Luota somewhere in between. But Hoyoverse has decided. So that is the predictions for the 5-star characters. We got the one that a lot of people were looking for, and my predictions for 2.2 based on what we see here. And let's do it in sequence, right? 5 stars, and we'll talk about 5 stars. Who is left? Let's just see the roster previously. Almost everyone has had their respective rerun, and unless we are predicting the second banner, a second rerun is happening for the first time, which I think is not very high. Who's left? We have Fucc, we have Topaz and Nambi, and then everyone else that were new in 1.5 onwards. The question is, will they want to clear off this final 2, or will they add someone in from the newer cast so that it can rerun? There is a very big possibility that they could consider doing something different in version 2.2, because it's very strange that they do not have a 4-star. Is there going to be 3 banners instead of 2? We also don't know, and I'm not so bold to make predictions that have never happened before. My guess is Fucc is going to come out, and in my opinion, Fucc is going to be in the second half. The reason for that is that it seems to be a pattern on how Hoyoverse does things. Popular characters generally are met with characters that maybe are not as super popular. They want to counter the balance a bit. They maybe like to do 1 male, 1 female. As you can see, the rerun tends to be a mix between male, female, male, female. In that case, I think that Boothill likely will be paired with Fucc, because Boothill has just been randomly announced into the game, not super popular. They want a carry for the second half of 2.2 to carry their revenue. I think Fucc is that carry, a very solid one. My prediction, Fucc is going to come in the second half. The first half is where it gets a little bit tricky. This is where I keep thinking the logical thought process is Topaz is going to be appearing in the first half together with Robin. But as I keep thinking about it, will they do that? I mean, it makes sense, right? Because Aventurine is here, so if you pull IPC here, you want to force players to spend money to pull IPC. But then again, this Topaz and Nambi versus Jingliu back to back again, it does feel yeah, it might not sound correct, which is why I thought to myself, will there be a second rerun for the first time that we see? Maybe one of the earlier casts is having a second rerun. That could be a possibility as well. And I am not sure whether it's worth making that kind of risky thought process. A character like Argenti, he could come out in 2.2 as well, over here together, to make it a very, very pure physical patch for his first ever rerun. So it's a tough call to make. My decision, I'm going to stick with the safe route for this one. You have an IPC here, so it does make sense for Topaz and Nambi to be in 2.2. I initially predicted her to come out in 2.1, especially since follow-up is a little bit more meta now with Jing Yuan getting a bit more limelight. You have Aventurine coming out, so it is quite a good time to put in a follow-up character. I'll lock in my bet. 2.2, I'd say Topaz and Fucc are my rerun 5 stars. The 4 stars are where it gets super interesting. We predicted, how many did we get right? For the 4 stars, which is not easy, is actually one of the harder things to do. 5 stars is like, the hit rate is, you can kind of see certain patterns. For 4 stars, we got Pella right. Back then, our thought process was she hasn't been out for like super long. And if Jing Liu was coming out in 2.1, it makes sense to have Pella run somewhere in between as well. It's kind of sneaky that they didn't put her here, right, in the second half of 2.1. Instead, they put her in the first half. So if you are playing a Jing Liu player, you want to have to pull on both banners, that's exactly what they want you to do. I didn't expect a Dan Heng to come out so quickly as well. He was one of the candidates for one of the picks, but I guess they didn't want to put Esther on the banner. I chose Esther instead of Dan Heng. Back then we were like deciding between the two of them as well in our previous video that we put out. But I guess they didn't want to make the first half too OP, because if you have Esther here, you have Pella here in the first half, which we predicted, then it'd be kind of god tier, right? In terms of a banner, you have one speed up character, you have one defense breaker AoE, super good for her banner. So instead, they decided to go with a more modest pick for a single target damage dealer like Dan Heng, who I don't think people will play if you already have a very strong DPS, for example like Acheron. So that is Dan Heng choice. Serval for the second half, we got correct actually. Coming in the second half, they wanted to beef up the second half for the AoE damage for any player who wants a character like Aventurine. I think is a pretty solid choice, so we got that right. So out of the top 3, is 2 out of 3 so far. And here, Ting-Che we didn't predict. I actually am super surprised at Yukong. If you look back at the history of our sheet here, and Yukong's like floating in mid there because she's being selected, but if you see over here, no character has actually had more than 9 cycles not appearing. Yukong was the first, one of the first few characters. So the longest run is, you can see here, Natasha 8 runs before she appeared, Pella 8 runs and now she's back. You have Dan Heng here 7 runs and he came back in 1.5. Yukong had 9 runs and is still not back. So this was like, that's why one of the reasons why we predicted Yukong coming back here. It was already like stretching to 10. They totally like flipped it on its end, the trend, and broke the trend as well. 9 cycles away, and including 10 and 11 here for 2.1. This is really crazy, in my opinion too. So he's not coming out here. And who else do we have? We have Ireland here, who I predicted will come out for the 2.1 second half, just because he's a defensive unit, and Aventurine like kind of combos well with his kind of style, because maybe you can put a shield, but maybe they still want him to lose a bit of life. So Ireland is not coming out. Instead, they put Luca here, which, okay, is a decent pick because he says 6 cycles away. So it was like Luca over Ireland in terms of like the offensive 4-star category that we have. And Lynx, of course, we didn't predict Lynx, but we got Gallagher right in the first half based on how the banner pattern that they were doing as well. It just didn't make too much sense to put like a sustain character together with Aventurine, the new 4-star sustain. Instead of putting it with Acheron, it just made a lot more sense. So we got the order right for the new 4-star too this time around. So let me just hide this so that we can see a nice pattern. And now let's go into the fun part. What are the characters I predict for 2.2 that's coming up? And if any of you want to make a guess as well, feel free to like leave in the comments below your thought process. This is all just guesstimation. There's no like leaks and stuff. But so far on the channel, some of you already know that our predictions are actually pretty decent. We don't have any superior knowledge or anything. Of course, it's just based on analysis and trend pattern analysis. That's what our channel is known for. But anyways, in this prediction, I think my prediction for the 4-star is a bit trickier than the 5-star. 5-star is like kind of clear who's left, but we do not have a single 4-star drip marketed for 2.2, which means I now have 6 characters to guess. Previously, it was always just 5 and the 4-star just getting the order right. In my opinion, the clearest and most logical bet were to put Yukong in the first half based on trend analysis. 11 patches, it has never happened before. 9 patches, in fact, was already a surprise. I think Yukong is coming out in the first half of 2.2. It feels a bit awkward here as well. She doesn't really combo with Robin or Topaz and Nambi, but I think they could make it work. Other than that, for the first half, let me see who else I think could be playing here. Maybe a follow-up character I was thinking for a unit like Topaz and Nambi. My guess is March 7 might come out in 2.2 first half, at least a defensive character that pairs nicely with both of the banner characters and has a bit of follow-up attacking for Topaz and Nambi to be in the mix as well. Last but not least, in the first half, I will lock in a character like Huynh. Huynh generally tends to appear at random times. Like you see here, like Doctor ratios like single target Kafka. Actually, it doesn't make any sense. Sometimes Hook's appearance is not really strategic. You have Hook appearing like on Fuchen's banner, on Zila's banner. In my opinion, I don't think Hook will come out in 2.3, which would likely be like maybe a character, for example, like Sam and Sunday, because those two are the only cars left. I think that they'll put Hook out in the first half. So I'll lock in my guess. Hook, March, and Yukong in the first half for version 2.2. And if any of you are finding value in this, you like this kind of guessing, other than leaving a comment of your guesses as well, let me know your thoughts and subscribe for more of such future videos too. We always will do one for the next patch. And this time around, I'm planning to do one for light cones as well, because it seems more and more of you are interested in the light cone banner. So that's definitely something that's coming up on the channel. You can stay tuned for that. Anyways, for the second half, my guess here, Susang. I think Susang makes a lot of sense to come out. It's a hunt, it's a physical patch, and they are trying to incentivize people from pulling in this 2.2 as well. If you pull on Fucchen, which some people might, and skip Boothill, you still want to give the players a bit of a physical hunt dealer, which means Susang is actually quite comfortable to be in the 4-star cast for those people who are going for Fucchen. If Hoyoverse thinks it might be a 50-50 split, maybe similar to Aventurine at Jingliu, then Susang will add a lot of value for a physical hunt meta that they are trying to rotate into for version 2.2. On top of that, who else do I think will appear? My logical thought process was Ireland being in 2.1 second half because of Aventurine, but maybe his thick chunky shield makes it so that Ireland doesn't ever lose HP. Fucchen, on the other hand, seems to play in the same defensive team, and at the same time, Fucchen also gives him the ability to lose his life at some point of time, which might make him maybe a little bit better to combo with. I think that Ireland is going together with Fucchen in the second half, and we have one more member. We can't all have like offensive units, that's what I was like thinking. But my gut feel is maybe they would play a character, for example, like Xue or Hanya. I'm not too sure whether either one of these characters will make appearance so quickly, given that we have like a selector and stuff like that. So it's a really tough decision to make. Usually by now I'm done because we already have the last character out. My guess is between Esther, Hanya, and Xue in the last slot. Because we already have like so many offensive units, I'm thinking from the perspective of a Boothill banner. To make it balance out, my guess is Esther is going to be filling up this like final slot here. A relatively free-to-play character, speed buff the whole entire team. I think that is my pick going into 2.2 second half. So I'll lock it in. This is my final guesses. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts as well. And if you appreciate such content and you want to hear my thoughts on the other 2.2 stuff, that 2.1 stuff that's going on, check out the other videos on our channel, which will be coming out real quick. And thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.